channel because it's more pertinent to this channel. And I had a startling dream early this morning. By startling, I don't mean, terrifying or a nightmare or anything like that. I literally mean startling in that it was like, the surprise, bewildering, enthralled effect was really powerful in the video, in the dream. And I believe it's highly significant, and I could you please use the comment section to extrapolate on this for yourselves and what you think it means. Now, in the dream, which took place just after 7 a.m., not long before I was about to go up for work, I was in the dream standing in the square in Charlestown, County Mayo, a town not far from where I live, and I'm occasionally there late at night to get the 24-hour bus service from Ballina in County Mayo to Dublin Airport. And if I have to get a very early morning flight, I'll often get the 1:30 a.m. bus from Charlestown in County Mayo, and I will sleep on the bus until I get to Dublin Airport. And it's a very handy service. So it's a kind of an interesting experience being in Charlestown at one. It's a typical Irish provincial town. There's no one around really. There might be a few fast food places still open, and the pubs will be closed, and you'll see the odd person walking around with a dog, and you'll see a fox, or very little traffic on the road that time at night. And it's usually very quiet. And so it was not unusual that I would dream about being in the square. But I was in the square and I was just talking to this guy who was just a regular Irish fella. What I describe as a normie. He was just, and that happens sometimes at the bus stop. There'll be usually one or two people there late at night, and just because it's a bit kind of weird, you start talking to each other, this kind of thing. Just to be making Irish people are like that anyway. We're very engaging. And so it must have been like something like that. And then he says, look at the moon. And I looked up, and there was a full moon in the sky, and near the church spire. And next to it was another full moon, 2 moons in the sky. And when I say I was startled in the dream, I mean I was absolutely mind blown. It was like that, not a nightmare now. It was more like, mother of God. And the thumbnail that I've created for this video is exactly what it looked like. There were 2 full moons in the sky next to a church steeple. And so and I woke up, and then I just was like, wow, that was incredible. So and then I got ready to go to work. And so there I am. I'm thinking about this dream now. I can't put it out of my mind. Now, there's 2 moons in the sky. Now, there's lots of ways of looking at that, and I am the one who tends to look at things from the sort of like psychoanalytical, esoteric, Jungian, symbolic, archetypal like direction. And so that's how I've been taking it. But there's other people who say things like reality is splitting in two, and I kind of agree with that. Absolutely, anyone can tell you for a fact that reality has split in two since spring 2020, and that's absolutely apparent to anyone who's paying attention. Humanity has come 2 directions, and I think that's what the dream is about. I'll extrapolate on that in a minute. And also you could say things like, well, there's a second moon, there's 2 moons, or the moon is an artificial satellite. There's lots of ways of looking at this. I mean, the moon is a very strange thing. In my book, Sorcery, The Invocation of Strangeness, I opened the book up with a story of another dream I had about 20 years ago living in Dublin. And I had, in the dream, the dream had informed me in a very strange way. It had informed me that human consciousness used to be a kind of primordial element, a thought form at the bottom of the deepest ocean, in a very kind of Lovecraftian deep one sense, and it could not reside on the surface of the planet because the planet was in turmoil. So human consciousness, as it was in that kind of Lovecraftian hyper subterranean mode at the bottom of the deep, like the Marianas Trench, the bottom of the deepest parts of the ocean. It was the only place on the earth that was safe. It brought the moon into creation, and it put the moon in orbit around the earth. So human consciousness could then evolve through different species and eventually onto the surface of the planet, because the moon regulated the cycles of the earth. And I woke up from that dream with the kind of like, wow, that was intense. And I walked out to get a glass of water in the kitchen, and I looked out the window, and there was the crescent moon of rising above the Irish Sea, and it was exactly 3:33 a.m. on the clock. So that was kind of one of those special moments, magical moments for me in my life, that that demonstrated to me there was more to reality than just the material existence of things. And that's this dream last night was definitely be in that category in terms of significance. Now, in the esoteric level, what does the moon actually mean? Well, it represents a few things, but generally to do with the subconscious mind. It's one level it deals with in its positive aspect, the dreams, oracles, visions, mystical experiences, the subconscious rising up from the depths. In fact, in a tarot, in the moon card, you will see a crab or a lobster at the bottom coming out of the sea, representing the insightful and thoughts and concepts rising up from the subconscious depths into manifestation in the conscious world. But it also represents on its negative side mania, nightmares, terror, phobias and fears, insanity. And that's what the two howling dogs and the path between the two towers represents, the dark night of the soul. And so on the other side, it represents that. But in both cases, the moon represents the shadow side of man. But remember, your shadow side is not necessarily dangerous or negative. It just means the other side of you. So it's the subconscious depths, archetypal core of yourself as a person, and all your inclinations and subconscious thoughts are arising from that. Now, so what does that mean, seeing two moons in the sky? Well, for me, and I could be wrong, and this is only a very early interpretation. Oh, by the way, before I got to that, I did have a dream about two moons in the sky, years ago, and I looked back through my dream journals, and sure enough, in 2008, I had a dream, and that was a significant year as well, of two moons in the sky, two full moons, and also in the same dream there was a UFO shaped like a diamond. Now, so anyway, I'm back to this dream that I had this morning around 7 a.m. So anyway, in my initial interpretation of the dream in terms of symbolism, not in terms of what it means for me personally, because generally dreams, you need to compile a series of dreams over a period of time to really understand things going in that sense. But an initial overall symbolism, quick look, I would suggest that the two moons are indicative of there's now two forms of human consciousness on this earth. There is the ones who took the transubstantiation of the sacred needlecraft from from the foghorn leghorn on, and then there's the rest of us who didn't get involved in all that stuff. And I do think that's exactly what this dream is now telling us, that there is two forms of human consciousness on this earth. There's us, and then there's the ones who decided to move towards the transhumanist world, because ultimately that's what the entire thing with the needlecraft is about. It was a rocket ship towards transhumanism. That's what it was. I'm convinced of that now. And in fact, everything that we're dealing with in the contemporary woke world, current world, is transhumanism. So, and then the other moon represents the should we say, the unfiltered, us, the ones who have remained outside the fold of that experience. I'm not judging people. I'm not saying people have had the Jabberwockies are lesser humans. I'm just saying, I mean, I'm sure there's many of them. In fact, I know a few who've taken that and are still on our side. So don't become bigoted or prejudiced about this thing. My attitude is now that there's two consciousness on this earth, and there's us in the tribes who have decided that we're no longer going to be a part of what's going on. And it's not just two ways, two modalities of thought, or two viewpoints. This is quite literally, there are now two species of human beings on this earth, and it has happened as a result of the events in the last nearly 3 years. So I think that's what the dream means. I might be reading it wrong, and hence why the comments in this section will be so important. But I felt the dream was startling enough and significant enough to share with you guys. I haven't had a dream that was that realistic in about a good few months, maybe over a year. That it was one of those dreams where I was there. It was not, I was dreaming it. I guess I was dreaming it, but it felt like I was actually there experiencing it. And I do have a fairly decently attuned and attenuated dream oracle that I do have prophetic and dreams now and again. But I think this one is highly significant. And I think, considering that my full-time deep dive into the world of magic and the occult began with a dream of the moon, it's only right that I put the significance on this one. So have you had dreams of a double moon? Have you seen a double moon? And you know what I mean? I've had a friend once years ago who swore to me that he saw two moons in the sky one day. And this guy is not like an alcoholic or a junkie or anything. And he's not even really interested in paranormal stuff like that. But he said he was driving in Manchester one day, and there was two moons in the afternoon. You know, you can sometimes see the moon during the day. There were two of them in the sky, in the same, two full moons in the sky at the same day as the sun was setting. And this guy was not being a spoofer or anything like that. And I was just like, he said, "What do you think caused that?" I said, "I don't know. I haven't got a clue." So this is a BR313 subject if ever there was one. And we live in strange times, and boy, are those strange times continuing. But the purpose is not to be fearful. The purpose is not to be living in dread. The purpose is understanding. That's why I began this BR313 channel. It's because I had an experience in Hanover in 2019, and I wanted that experience to be resolved through a deeper dive into the 40 and the occult and the strange. And it's helped me understand that experience a lot more. So, and this is another, I would place this almost on the same significance. So, thank you for watching and paying attention, and please get involved. I need to know, what you guys feel about this, because you're important. Your opinion to me is vitally important, and always has been in this regard. And thank you very much, and sanguinosis.